Hello everyone, it's Monoxen coming back to you again with another expert replay. This time it's the Nightmare Shard, being played by Sparrow. He does this with no Mark of the Keeper, Enlightenment, Night Guard, or Parasite Swarm. So it's definitely the more difficult way to do the map, but it's appreciated that he takes the time to provide a quality replay. Bit of a disclaimer on this is that it is 56 minutes long, so I had to speed it up to 4 times speed in order to reduce it down to 2 files. He starts off with a nature orb, Mana Wing, to take out this spawn building before it creates any ranged units. Takes care of that and parks them. Then they're going to go ahead and clean up the rest of those units there. He swaps out his nature orb for fire, which he's going to use to bring in a scavenger, a makeshift tower, and mortar tower. Builds up both of his walls and then runs his scavenger to the middle here, where he's going to run over to the other side and build up the wall and make a copy of his defense that he has on the west side. Gets trapped a little there with some of this wild magic. Builds his makeshift and mortar tower, and then he's going to sack this little guy. Build up his wall when he gets a chance. And he's ultimately going to build here 3 mortar towers on this side. On the northern wall here, he's going to build 2 mortar towers and a makeshift, but he hasn't gotten started on those yet. He will whenever a vile blood comes around and starts to beat on it, which is now. He'll summon in that group of Sunstriders there. He's going to send those up to claim that orb that he has mostly cleared out in a little bit here. The early part of this map is building up those defenses and micromanaging both sides at the same time, so that can be a little difficult. It's definitely not for those who are distracted too awful easily. I find myself among those, but I would be willing to try this strategy. Mortar Tower has superior damage to makeshift or most any other tier 1 tower. The only issue is that you do have to micromanage it. You have to tell it to fire, and you have to tell it where to fire. So that may prove a little annoying, which is why I think that he does finish the map as quickly as he can, but this is the best strategy for soloing this map without using those cards that I stated in the beginning. He's going to kill this Twilight Witch, let those abominations go by. Or Vile Bloods, I'm sorry. He's going to run these guys up. Careful to build his makeshift towers right where he builds them there. And you don't want to build them too far forward or close to those power wells, because you'll draw down the parasite swarms that are up there. And he's going to do that intentionally here in a second to go ahead and get rid of them. And then once he's done with that, he'll be able to build his wells and his orb. There we go. Go ahead and get rid of those. Ultimately, there's, I believe, 4 of those swarms that are just kind of around there. He's going to grab one more of them here pretty soon. It's on the right there. There it is. And all the time that he's doing this, every time a Twilight Witch or a Vile Blood comes to his wall down there in the east or in the west, he has to micromanage those mortar towers and tell them to kill them. So there is quite a bit of clicking back and forth if you're going to try this. You've been warned. Right, finishes off the last of the parasite swarms. Mortar towers are staying busy. He's going to build a frost orb here so he can bring in construction huts, juice tanks, and cannon towers. He's going to start off with the construction hut, build one here, and he'll build one back in base. There we go. And then as soon as he gets done with this big defense here, he's going to start his cannon towers, and he's going to build 3 cannon towers right in front of each of those mortar towers. There they go. And he's going to mimic this same design on the other side, on the east side. In the north, he'll only need to build 2 of these cannon towers. The northern defense can be a little bit lighter because generally you only have a Vile Blood or an occasional burrower that will come around to the top side of the base. And luckily on the eastern base there, since he doesn't have an orb or anything there, the Vile Blood that would normally patrol up and then back down into the base to kill the orb, doesn't do that because there's nothing there for him to go kill. So that's pretty handy. He's going to sack his frost and bring in a nature so he can get some breeding grounds. I think he's going to build 2 of them here. He's going to build one down in the eastern base, which he just did now. And then he's going to build one up there in this base where his 3rd orb is. Or 2nd orb, I'm sorry. Yeah, ultimately he ends up building 13 orbs by switching them in and out. So when you're limited to what you have to swap out your orbs. He's going to summon in a total of 4 Skyfire Drakes here to clear out the parasite swarms guarding this power well. He'll bring in a scavenger to take this well in a second. Killed those. Come back for a little heal. Summon in some more, as power allows. And he has a level 3 upgrade breeding grounds, which gives him a 30% power reduction in the cost of his units. So essentially for each one of these Skyfire Drakes, he's saving about 30 power. So that definitely hastens the process here. He's going to leave his little scavenger here when he takes and gets his full army of the Skyfire Drakes built up. And then he's going to go up to the northwest and take out the towers and the spawn buildings up there using just these Skyfire Drakes. And he has the nature orb now, which he used for the breeding grounds, and he's going to use that for some ray of light and some surge of light. Keep these Skyfire Drakes fighting. Skyfire Drake doesn't really have a whole lot of HP, and all of its upgrades just add HP, so it's pretty important to keep those guys healed, because they will bite the dust pretty quickly. Once he finishes off these towers and the ground units, he'll send his scavenger up and get started on his 3rd orb. He's going to build a frost orb here, and he's going to ultimately be switching all this out. Careful to avoid the Vile Blood. If you've never had to deal with Vile Bloods, their Vile Blood pool that they create when they die will damage flying units, so you have to be careful about that. He's got his frost back, so he's going to bring in Construction Hut, Juice Tank. Then he's going to go ahead and destroy his Fire Orb and Nature Orb. There goes the Nature, and he's building in Shadow. There goes the Fire, after summoning in his Sunstrider. And he's bringing these 2 Shadow Orbs in so he can get in Church of Negation. Church of Negation is a really handy defense tool. And he's going to go ahead and defend here. There's a big wave that's going to come down as he builds up power for his church. Summons in his Sky Elf Templars and Kobold Engineer up there near to his breeding grounds, so he saves as much power as he can on them. Now they're ready to go into action whenever he gets ready for his church. And as he builds his 2 churches, it's time for part 2.